Alright, hey everyone out there in Banjo land, Mike Heading here, coming to you today with a little mini banjo lesson. Today I'm going to talk about how to take a simple banjo lick, in this case, and how to add little variations to that so you're not playing your favorite tunes the exact same way every time. We're going to add some pinches, we're going to add some hammer-ons, we're going to do pull-offs, and our goal is to be to keep the lick, for the most part, as close to that original while still adding some variations. So I've got on the tab, I created 35 variations on that little lick, and I think I went a little crazy, so I'm going to teach you about 14 of them in this video, and then you can subscribe if you want the tab for the rest of them. But this is an awesome way to kind of keep all your old songs fresh, and all these things that I'm going to talk about are skills that you can use on any lick. You know, that one lick I'm using as an example isn't anything particular. All these little tips will work for any of your favorite licks. So this is a really awesome way to keep all your songs sounding fresh and exciting and give you some new ways to play each tune. Alright, here we go. Here's the lick. I'll play it and then I'll break it down. One more time. Okay, so I'm starting on the open third string with my thumb of my right hand. Then I'm hitting the first string with my middle finger, also open. Then I'm going up to the fifth string with my thumb, hitting that open. Then I'm doing a 2 to 3 slide on the third string with I'm using my second finger of my left hand. And then I'm hitting the middle first string, open. Then I'm taking my left hand off, open on the third string, second fret on the fourth string, and then middle, open on the first string. So let me do it really slow. Couple times. One more. So I think the hardest thing about that lick is you know, for beginners anyways, playing your index finger on the third string with your right hand, and then doing that slide. You know, for beginners usually it's easier to lead with your thumb. In this case, we're kind of doing that slide with our index finger. So that's what I've seen normally throws people off. You know, if you're ever in doubt, you can always just go back and forget the slide and just play it with opens. You know, and just make sure you've got the right hand fingerings down, and they'll be below the tab so you can refer to them. Also, sometimes you even have to look at your right hand to just verify that you're not cheating. Sometimes it's really easy for your thumb to creep up and try and take over. So you got to be careful of that. Sometimes just look down at your right hand to verify that you're actually playing the correct right hand fingerings. One more time. Here we go. So this lick is used a ton in, you know, a ton of bluegrass songs. It's probably the most common, you know, banjo lick out there. So this I thought would be a good one to kind of talk about how to mix it up and how to vary it. So that's our lick. So we'll vary it based on, you know, that form with the slide. Okay? So it's important to think about that slide, because one of the things we can vary is changing that slide. So one more time with the slide. Here's the lick. And I'm adding an extra little ending third string there just to make it sound a little more final. So that's another thing you can do while you're practicing. Okay, so now here come some of the variations. Okay, so first thing we can do is just change that slide into a hammer-on. So it sounds like this. So I did a 2-3 hammer-on the third string and used my first 2 fingers. You can use your second and third, or I use my first and second, but you know, some people might use their second and third. Try it both ways. Everything else is exactly the same. So not a huge change, but it is. We now have 2 licks instead of 1, so it's a little better. Okay. Next change we can do. So here's another variation, and these will all be in the tab. We can just take out that slide altogether, the 2 to 3 slide on the third string. We'll keep the second fret on the fourth string, but we'll keep everything else the same, so it sounds like this. So you might have heard that one in tunes like Foggy Mountain Breakdown, or it's a really classic kind of fill lick when you have a measure to fill. So it's very similar. The right hand's exactly the same. The only thing we did is took out that 2 to 3 slide. So it's one more time, sounds like this. Okay, so those were 2 left hand variations. So now let's look at our right hand and do a variation with the right hand. Okay, so we're going to keep everything the same on the left hand this time. So it sounds like this. So what I did is I took out, it's the 4th note, or actually the 5th note, excuse me, the 5th note of the solo, or of the lick. With my right hand, I just omitted that note. I just took it out completely. So it's not, I'll play it real slow. So instead of doing that hammer-on with an extra middle finger of my right hand and kind of filling that up, kind of like like we did in the original lick, I just took out that note. And that's something I've seen like guys like J.D. Crowe or Ron Stewart do a lot of. They'll actually just take notes out, leave some notes out with the right hand to actually create variations. And what it kind of does is it creates space within the lick. Instead of having that really, it's just a little bit busier, whereas this just sounds a little bit, it has a little bit more space in the middle of the lick. It kind of highlights that hammer on a little bit. It doesn't get lost in the roll. And it takes a little bit more careful. You got to be a little bit more careful with your right hand. It's a little bit trickier. It also adds a little bit more syncopation because I'll play it with just the right hand one. So listen to the syncopation. So it's got that cool offbeat feel because your ear's expecting to hear, that note, and we're leaving that out. So so again, not a huge total change, but a small change, but it'll create a variation for you. Okay, so next one, let's go back to our left hand variations. So I'm going to do a slide this time, and instead of just doing a 2 open at the end, I'm going to do a pull off on the 4th string. So it sounds like this. And add the ending note. It makes it sound better. Sorry. Let me try that one more time. So I left out that right hand note at the end too, so I'm just doing a pull off. So watch your timing there. Okay, so another one, not a huge change, but a noticeable change. The point of this is to be able to come up with a whole bunch of licks on the spot that are kind of similar to the theme. Sometimes they call a lick. I shouldn't even refer to it as a lick, really. This is a lick. Something that you can do one time. What we're trying to do is actually kind of create an idea, something that we can use in a whole bunch of situations. To me, sometimes a lick implies more that, it's one thing you can do and you kind of crowbar it into a song, and sometimes it doesn't fit. What we're doing is trying to, create an idea that we can express in a bunch of different ways. Okay. So let's make that idea a little bluesier. So instead of doing it with a 2nd fret on the 4th string at the end, let's make it a 3rd fret, and it'll give it a bluesier sound. So it sounds like this. So that's a cool way, easy way. Take your 2 and make it a 3, and you've got a blues lick. So that's something you can try on any of your licks, and the point of this lesson is to start examining all your licks that you do. Even if it's just like the Foggy Mountain Breakdown. So if we can start thinking slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs, how can I change these little things in slight ways? You can start coming up with a whole bunch of different ways to play, Cripple Creek or Foggy Mountain Breakdown, or any of your tunes that you've been playing. And that's a really easy way and a fun way to keep the song fresh and, to make it fun for you. Okay, so next one. Okay, so we're going to change the timing and the lick a little bit, but not too much. So next time, instead of starting on the 3rd string, we're actually going to start on the 4th string this time. So we're going to do a quarter note, and then everything else is the same after that. So we're going to do 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So you can do it with the slide too. So I'll do it with the slide. So you hit open 4th string, and then you go up to the 5th string. So we basically just omitted that second note. Instead of the first two notes being an eighth note, 1 and, we're just doing 1. So it's 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay? So not a huge change again, but noticeable. Here we go. So next one I'm going to make it a little bluesier. So I'm going to take out that slide and just make it a 3rd fret. So watch. One more time. So instead of doing the 2 to 3 slide and the 2nd fret on the 4th string, I just turned them both into 3s. So kind of a cool little, change. All right, so next one, we're going to start with a quarter note this time on the 1st string. So we're going to start with our middle finger of our right hand. And then we're going to do everything else is the same after that. Or do it with a hammer on. I'm so used to switching them up I don't even think about it anymore, but let me do it with exactly like the tab is written, so it's a hammer on. So the point of this exercise is to kind of get all those to be, so where you can just mix them up. You can try it with a pull-off too. I always tell my students that slides, hammer-ons, and pull-offs are all more or less interchangeable. So it's good to be able to play any of the 3, in any given break. So one more time, we're starting with the quarter note on the 1st string. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, next one we're going to change the ending and do 2 thumbs on the 4th string in a row. So breaking a little bit of a beginner rule, but this is kind of a lick I've seen J.D. Crowe and other guys do that sounds kind of cool, so I just put it in here for good practice. So I'll play it really slow. That's kind of the hardest part. You're doing 2 thumbs in a row on the 4th string. 2, open. So in that case, I kind of like that sound of the, so that's actually part of the style is that staccato feeling. Okay? So next one we're actually going to take out the 1st note. So we're going to omit that note completely and kind of do a rhythmic change on the lick. So we're going to put a pause at the beginning. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Yep, so you got to come in on the and. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So I just took out the very first thumb note. So you could ghost that note if you needed to. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So that's a cool kind of J.D. Crowe variation or something like that where remember, it's a syncopated thing where your ear expects to hear something on that downbeat, and then you're going up on the upbeat and on the and. So it gives it a really cool feel because the listener's not expecting that. So one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay? Next one, we're going to start with a pinch. So instead of rolling or, doing all single notes, another really easy variation is add some pinching. So we're going to pinch the 4th string and the 1st string on this one for a quarter note. So 1, and then I'm going to do a pull off this time. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So couple times. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So you could take out, or you could do a pinch for any of the stuff at the beginning. You could pinch the 3rd string. It's a really easy variation. Add some extra emphasis and pop. And it adds more right hand emphasis to the lick. So one more time, 4th string and 3rd string pinch, or 4th string and 1st string, excuse me. Okay, 2 more. Next one we're going to add. We're going to do a 3-2 pull off on the 4th string to end it. So it sounds like this. So kind of a cool little. Those 4th string pull-offs are tricky sometimes. That's why I threw that in there. You'll see different people do it different ways. Some people push the string up this way. I like to pull back almost towards my palm. You got to keep your hand out though so you don't mute the 4th string like I just did. One more time. So just a little bit more advanced lick. Okay, last one. I'm going to add some pinching to the middle of the roll. So it sounds like this. I'll play it really slow. So one more time. So I'm adding some pinching in the middle. You know, so instead of doing, I'm pinching in the middle twice. Cool. So last thing I'd say for this little lesson is, you know, go back to the standard lick. So we're starting out with our thumb. You know, the only other little variation is you'll also see that same exact lick, but started with your index finger because, you know, the measure before you had just played a note with your thumb. So you'll also see it starting with the index finger of your right hand. It sounds like this, same exact way. You know, so if that feels really weird to you, try that because, you know, for a lot of beginners, it's very difficult to start a lick with your index finger. You know, it's so much easier to start with your thumb, so it's really good practice to get to, you know, sometimes you even have to exaggerate a little bit just to make sure you're picking that note out cleanly. But that's the other thing you can do, is so you can go through and play all the licks over again, and instead of starting them with your thumb, start it with your index finger. You know, so if you can do all those, you'll be ready for anything, and you kind of you have a blueprint on how to vary other licks that you know. So you're never playing the same song twice. That was something that really took me a while to realize about banjo, is when at least the guys that I really liked were improvising, they weren't completely reinventing the wheel. You could still tell it was Long Journey Home or 9-Pound Hammer, but they threw these little subtle rhythmic variations or pull-offs and hammer-ons and slide variations that made the solo sound completely new and cool, but they didn't really change it that much. So that's really hard for a lot of beginners because they think that they have to completely go off script and play something totally new and totally unique when they first try and improvise on a simple solo. But hopefully this exercise can give you some smaller variations that you can work on to still make the song sound fresh, but you can still tell what song it is. All right, good luck.